Amen. Well, you can have a seat if you will. We are starting a brand new series today, and it's a series I'm really excited about. For one thing, there's a book coming out called Colors of Hope today that I'm really excited about, and I believe it's going to be very helpful in your life and in the lives of friends and family that you're able to give it to or make sure they get it somehow. It's a good book, and I'm excited about it. And one of the great things about writing a book as a pastor is that most of the time, as you do that, you've written it out of an overflow of a sermon series. You guys know we do sermon series usually 4 or 5, 6 weeks, 17 weeks if it's called Jesus that we just did. And out of the overflow of that sermon series, it's easier as a pastor to be able to take that content from that sermon series and just let it kind of overflow into a book. And that's what I've been able to do here. The problem with that is that in order to have 40,000 words that people would want to read, it's one thing to have 40,000 words. The girl sitting beside you at work has 40,000 words, right? But it's one thing to have 40,000 words that people want to read. And in order to have that, you've had to experience a lot of this content at a pretty high level. So it's a good thing because you've been through this, you worked through it with me, we heard from God together. But the other thing is we're starting to do a series on the content, and I'm thinking, well, what else is there left to say, right? I mean, you've heard a lot of this from many of you who were around at least during that time. And another thing is I really want you to read the book. Like, and somebody asked me, they said, are you going to promote your book like to your church? Because then they might think you want them to buy it. And I'm like, why would anybody write a book if they didn't want people to buy it? Like it's way too hard to write a book if nobody's gonna read it. I didn't write a book just to read myself. By the way, I have read it 3 times in its finished form because it really is, I think God's speaking through it. Like I really do. It's got a lot of hope, but I want you to read the book, so I don't want to just preach the 7 miracles of Jesus out of the book of John that are in this book. But I believe that within the kind of the content of this book, there is a principle. And the principle is this, is that God is a God of miracles. And so over the next few weeks, what I want us to do is rather than jumping into those same 7 miracles of Jesus that you're going to read when you read the book, we're going to look outside of that just to this whole principle that God is still a God who wants to do miracles in your life. Miracles are not just the natural things that happen to us, but something that is supernatural. And I hope and pray that we are a church that is begging God to do supernatural things in our lives, because the natural is getting us in enough trouble all over the place. But I'm begging God to do something supernatural in our lives. And here's the thing about miracles. If we're praying for miracles and asking God for a miracle, is that miracles are grown out of this deep soil that's called hope. And we preached a lot about hope last weekend. We talked about hope because everybody needs hope. You need to just know that there is some hope in your life, that there is something over this hill that you're climbing up right now, that there's something in the horizon for you, and God is the God of hope. In fact, we saw last weekend that Easter screams at the top of its lungs that God is a God of hope. And here's the thing about our church, something you may not know if you've not been here very often, and I hope if you came last week, I hope you came back this week too. But what I can tell you about our church is that we believe that Easter is to be celebrated every single day, every single Sunday, because Easter is not an event. It is a man named Jesus, and we love what he has done for us. And so it's down in the deep soil of hope that you can often find the miracle. But how many of you been around long enough to know that life is pretty hard? Like I'm 44 years old now, and I've noticed that life really is a series of very difficult events, one after another. And the key is how will you handle it? You'll know if you've grown if you're handling your events now at 44 better than you were at 24, right? But there's a lot of pain that happens in our lives. We've been through a lot of pain. Everybody in here is going through something. Like that's something, if we could just remember that about each other, as this world is so contentious and so divisive, and there's so many things about this world that people want to argue over everything all the time now. If you can just remember in the midst of all of that, that truly everybody's going through something. because life really is painful. And we've all been through some hard things, some difficult things. And many of us are going through difficult things now. But what we realize is that it's in the midst of that pain that the beauty of the miracle that God wants for us really shines out. In fact, I feel like you can't discount your pain in life. You don't want to just push it aside, and you don't want to despise the season of pain that you're going through, because pain really draws the edges and the borders of this canvas of pain that our life really is in many ways. And it colors it with colors of hope. And so that's what we want to see in this series, is that God is going to do a miracle in our lives, and it's going to be through the pain that happens. In fact, be careful about despising the season of pain that you're in right now. As I said, everybody's going through something. We're all going through stuff. And there's some people in here that are going through some very difficult things. I know that. But don't despise this season, because this season for you can be an indicator of what is to come, and really preparation for what God is getting ready to take you to. It's an indicator in what God wants to do with you, because if the enemy is after you in such a way that you're going through this pain right now, it may very well be because he's after you because he knows the plans that God has for you, and God has a plan for you to do amazing things in your life and through your life. It also, it's not just an indicator, but it's preparation. I saw this just this morning. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he told me that this week he had a chance to go and really rush to the hospital to be with a friend of his who had tragically lost their wife. Their wife was in ICU at the time, and he was going to be with them. Well, my friend who shared this story with me, he about a year ago or so, was in ICU for several weeks, surgery after surgery after surgery with his son. And he told me, he said, the pain that I went through, the pain, the canvas of pain that God painted colors of hope on us night after night and day after day when we were in ICU, God very clearly showed me in those moments what people need when they're going through that. And he said, because of the preparation that God had done through my pain, I was able to be what this man needed in his moment of pain. And so don't discount the season of pain you're in. One day you're going to be able to look at somebody and say, me too. Like, I've been through that too. One day you're going to be able to look at somebody and say, hey, I made it through. Can I show you the path? Because you can make it through too. And so don't discount it, because what God may be trying to do right now in your life is to stretch you. Everybody say stretch really loud. Just stretch. He's trying to stretch you. And here's the thing about stretching. I'm the most inflexible person that's ever been created by God. I don't know why he made me this way, but I'm humble enough to show you. That's all I got. I mean, that is everything. That hurts a lot. Like, that hurts a lot for me to do that. To go just a little bit more makes me start to sweat just a little bit. So that's all I got. Stretching is very painful to me. I don't like to stretch. Someone told me recently, and said, you should really take up yoga. Maybe that would help. And I'm like, if I can't do this, can you see me in some yoga position? Get the Instagram ready, because that would be hilarious if I went to yoga. But it's painful to stretch sometimes. And what I see in the Bible is that most of the time when there's a miracle, right before the miracle, someone has to stretch to be willing to get into the place where God wants to do something with them. And so if you're praying for a miracle, you're going to have some hope. It's in the deep soil of hope that miracles come out of. And if you want to get to that deep soil, you're going to have to learn to stretch. And God is wanting you to stretch, just to stretch. And I love the idea of hope, and I love the idea of God doing miracles. I want a miracle in my life, but I don't like the idea of stretching very much. But we're going to learn through a couple stories in the Bible over the next few weeks together that when God stretches us, that he's stretching us to the place where he wants us to be. And everybody in here is going through something, but everybody in here, God has a place where he wants you to be. And where he wants you to be, he's going to have to stretch you just a little bit. So we're going to learn. The book covers the 7 miracles out of the book of John, but we're going to go back to the Old Testament for a little bit, and we're going to go tag team for a little bit. How many of you remember WWE, WWF back in the day when they had the great tag teams, and the one guy would be just about out of everything, and he would stumble over, and he would reach out, he would stretch, and he would reach out, and he would barely tag his team member, and then that guy would come in with all kind of excitement, and he would have a chair and hit somebody with a chair, and somehow the ref never saw that. The other guy would distract the ref, so he's like looking around and they would hit him. Well, we're going to have a little tag team out of the Old Testament, the tag team prophets of Elijah. Everybody say Jah. And Elisha. Everybody say Shah. Which reminds me of Saturday Night Live. Y'all remember that? Shah. Y'all remember that at all? You may remember, though, that Elijah, he is, the Bible says about Elijah, this is what I love about him. It says, he was a hairy man. How would you like God to describe you that way? He was a hairy man, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. Basically, he was a Wookiee. And tell me where I'm lying. Like, tell me. That's Elijah. Some early photographs of him there. And Elijah comes on the scene in 1 Kings chapter 17, and he shows up at the door of Rahab, she's a whole other story, of Ahab, shows up at the door of Ahab, and he's got a message from God that God has prompted him to go and deliver to Ahab, and the message is this: there will be no more dew, and there will be no more rain for 3 years as a punishment to the people who have been disobeying God. So the people of Israel have been disobeying God. Ahab is a tremendously horrible king, and his wife Jezebel, you may have even called some woman that before in your life. Not recommended if it's your wife. I'm just telling you, just study the Bible a little bit. Don't call her Jezebel. But Jezebel was a mean woman. She was the queen. Ahab was horrible. And all of a sudden, Elijah shows up on Ahab's door with a message from God that there is not going to be any more dew and there's not going to be any more rain at all in all of the land. And he's courageous enough to deliver that message. Now, hearing that, you like me, probably want to know more about Elijah. Like, you're probably like, how do you get to be this courageous? Like, how do you have the guts to show up to this unbelievably mean, despicable king and queen and show up on their doorstep, get their attention, and then deliver this not good message from God that, hey, you're going to be punished by God. No dew and no rain. And so I want to know, like, what was this guy made up of? Like, how did he get to be this kind of guy? Like, what kind of mentoring did he have? Like, how did he get to be this tough? How did he get to be this courageous? But honestly, this is the first time that we ever hear about Ahab in the Bible. So God sends him from out of nowhere. We have no idea where he comes from. We know nothing about him. But out from nowhere, he shows up on Ahab's door. And then what we see is that God takes care of him. And so what we see in this is first that the circumstances of a miracle are often out of our obedience and not out of simply responding to our need. So it wasn't just that Elijah had this need in his life. Like, he wasn't going around going, you know what I need is to be a messenger of God. What I need is to deliver this message to the king. What I need is for there to be no dew and no rain on the land for 3 years. He wasn't begging for any of that. He was just somewhere being obedient to God. In fact, he was obscure. And you may think, how Pastor Shawn always says, God will use me. He's going to use me in a big way, but nobody knows who I am. Like, they don't even hardly know who I am at work. I'm obscure. How would they listen to me? No one hardly even knows anything about me. Even some of my family doesn't really know who I am, you might say. I'm obscure. How could God use me? I don't have this platform. But as we look at Elijah, what we see is that he is brought out from obscurity by obedience. By obedience. And so the Lord said to Elijah, go to the east and hide by the Kerith brook, near where it enters the Jordan River. Drink from the brook and eat what the ravens bring you, for I have commanded them to bring you food. So Elijah, he goes and all of a sudden he finds himself now in the need of a miracle, because just like for the rest of the land, there's going to be no dew and no rain. And rain, of course, is brings sustenance to the ground, and it's where things grow from, and it's how he gets what he eats. The rain gives him the water that he would need to drink, and so all of a sudden he is in need. And when he is obedient, we see that God has a plan for him. It just shows us that when you're obedient to God, God will take care of you. He will always take care of his people. Like, if you're a follower of Jesus, no matter how life may be falling apart around everybody, he does take care of you. And there's times and the seasons where you feel like nothing is going right around me. I don't see how there could be any hope. God takes care of his people. And so he gives Elijah these instructions, and he says, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to the Kerith Brook, and I want you to drink from there, and the ravens will bring you food. And so then Elijah is going to experience a miracle in his life because he hears from God. He hears from God, and then he does something that seems so simple, but it's extraordinary. It seems so easy, but it is what brings just amazing work of God into our lives, is that he obeys God. And when he obeys God, he's taken care of by God. So Elijah, it says in verses 5 and 6, obeyed God's orders. Simple, but profound way to lead our lives. Simple, but not the usual way that all of us lead our lives. A simple, but life-changing way to lead your life, to obey God. So when he speaks, through his scripture, he speaks very loudly and very clearly. When he speaks to a small group that you're going to, when he speaks to a friend who brings a word of God to you and some wisdom to you, when he speaks through sitting through a sermon where God has prompted the heart of a pastor to share that sermon with you, when he speaks, that we listen, that when he prompts us, we act. He told Elijah, go to Ahab. Elijah could have said, well, I mean, God, you really think this is the best idea? I mean, Ahab's a really mean guy. Can I give you some pushback, God? Because honestly, I don't know this is a great plan. Have you met Jezebel? Have you seen Jezebel? Like she's not a good woman. God, are you sure? God, are you sure? And isn't that what we do with God? I mean, God gives us some instructions, and we go, well, I mean, but God, what's going to happen next? Like I'm willing to obey you, God, but I need to know how you're going to take care of me. Because if I go to the king's front door and deliver this message that there's not going to be any rain or dew, this is going to mess his life up. He may mess my life up. I don't know this. How is this going to work out? We have no indication that Elijah got any other word from God except to go and deliver this message. And now God says, all right, there's not going to be any dew or any rain. Elijah could have said, God, how am I going to be taken care of? What are you going to do for me, God? How are you going to take care of my needs, God? He doesn't say that. And then God says, now, Elijah, I am going to take care of you, and here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to this brook, and you're going to drink from the brook, and you're going to eat food that is dropped out of the sky by ravens. Come on now. Aren't you going, God, I mean, I've never seen ravens drop food out of the sky. This was like before Amazon had, the drones delivering stuff. This was God's own version of drone delivery. He's like, I've never seen drone delivery. I don't know if I like that or not. Have you gotten the FAA? Have they cleared it? I mean, like, what are we going to do here? Like, no questioning whatsoever. It says, Elijah obeyed God's orders. God will sometimes ask us to do things that don't make any sense, and we obey them. Sometimes he will ask us to do things that are the opposite of what we want to do because he knows better than we do, and we obey him. Sometimes God will prompt us in just a small way just to take one step towards something without giving us any more advanced knowledge of what's going to happen, and we obey him. Just simple and profound way to live your life. And so it says, he went and he camped in the Kerith Canyon on the other side of the Jordan. And sure enough, everybody say, sure enough. Sure enough, God always is sure enough. He's a sure deal. If he tells you it's going to happen, it's going to happen. If he tells you he'll protect you, he'll protect you. If he tells you he's going to take care of you, he will take care of you. Sure enough, ravens brought him his meals, both breakfast and supper. Apparently, a brother has to get his own lunch. I don't know what's going on. God was like, look, I'm giving you 2 square. We're not going for 3. You can eat leftovers. And he drank from the brook. He drinks from the brook, and he's fed by the ravens in this time of famine. The world is falling apart all around him. And yet Elijah says, but I'm good. I'm good. How did he get there? Because he was under the covering of God. I always see the covering of God like an umbrella. It's the covering of God. And Elijah is walking under the covering of God. And the covering of God protects us. And the covering of God, when we go, that we don't get hit by the rain. And see, I'm not an umbrella guy. Anybody here an umbrella guy, umbrella girl? You always carry an umbrella. You got one in your car. You carry it with you when you go places. You're the people that when we're walking into Walmart and there's no clouds and we're like, why has the dude got an umbrella? Like, who carries an umbrella? And then when you come out, the whole sky is falling out because they read they had the weather. They kind of looked at the weather and stuff. For me, I learned that umbrellas are great. Great if you have them, but they don't work very good when they're at home. Like, every time I need an umbrella, you know where it is? It's at home. It's in my garage. It's sitting on the door when you come in. And I have no idea where it is when I need it. And so I'm the guy who's at Walmart, like, just waiting. I think it'll calm down here all right, it's calm enough. And then I'm just sprinting across the parking lot, splashing all over my new shoes and getting wet and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just trying to get to the safety, and everybody's laughing at me because I'm running through the rain and they got their umbrellas. Because umbrellas are not any good if you're not with them. Umbrellas aren't any good if they go this direction and you go the other direction. Like, it's not any good. So God's protection for us, God's covering for us, is the protection of the way that he would have us do things. And so often in life, we don't let the umbrella cover us. Here's why. I feel the spirit of Rihanna coming all over this place right now. Under my umbrella, Ella, Ella. Come on, sing it with me. Ella, Ella. All right, so Alex is right here. Alex Helpson, Freedom Youth, what's up? And so what can happen too is, in my life, I can be with someone and they can get under the covering of my umbrella. They can get under the covering of what's going on in my life. So we bring our friends into it, and all of a sudden they are around our favor. But what we often do is, Alex, hold my umbrella for me. What we often do is we go over here and we can't figure out, why is the rain pelting me? Like, why am I in the midst of the storm? Why isn't God protecting me? I got this umbrella, but now I've left it because God went that way and I went the other way, and we can't figure out why in the world we're in a storm. Like, we can't figure, if God was a good God, why is all this rain coming down on me? And then over here is the umbrella. And so we're right here, we're under God's covering. So we're obeying God, we're listening to God, and we're under his covering. And then we're like, but I want to do what I want to do. I want to do it my way. And how do you know that every single person in here has a way? Like, you have a way that you would like to do things, just like God's got a way. The only problem is God has a universe, you don't. And so God's way is always the better way. So we get over here, and then we get angry at God. And we get mad at God. I can't figure out why my marriage is falling apart. I mean, we stopped going to small group, 6-7 months ago. We come to church when we can make it. I mean, not when something else isn't going on. And we're there most of the time. And I don't really serve anymore. I used to serve a lot, but I don't really serve anymore. And we can't figure it out. Like, why am I being pelted by the storm? Why? Because the umbrella is the covering of God. And so when the covering of God moves, we move. When the covering of God goes somewhere, we go somewhere. And when the covering of God goes, we say, this is where we've got to be because I want to be protected. And so this is how it is. Now listen, this church is a church, we truly mean it when we say welcome home. Welcome home. Wherever you are in life, whatever choices you've made in life, whatever decisions you've made in life, I want to tell you, you are welcome home. But I want to explain a principle to you. And if you're a parent, you'll understand this really well because it's a principle that says, even if I love you, I can tell you when you're not under the covering. And so as your pastor, here's what happens is we go, well, I know the covering says to stay right here, and I really shouldn't have sex before I get married. But man, it's 2018. I mean, surely they've revised the Bible for us, right? I mean, surely it's different now. And so we go to where our feelings want to take us. And the problem is our feelings take us into places that are really, really not good for us. Feelings will lie to you. Feelings will abandon you. Feelings will let you down. And so we go to where our feelings want to be. And so we go over here and we go, well, I really want to feel this with this person. I really want to be intimate with this person. I'm probably going to marry this person. And then here's what happens. When all of life comes crashing down and you enter into the hell that is the fact that you broke up with them, the fact that they left you and you didn't get married, and then you are crushed, and God was saying, it's not that I'm against sex. He made sex, by the way, just in case you didn't know that. He's not against it. It's not that I'm against it. Here's what I know is under the protection that I've got for you, that you wouldn't be crushed like this. Because here's the deal. What God knows is when we're intimate with someone, there is a bonding that happens. Genesis actually refers to it as like a bonding, a glue of the soul. The souls are tied together. And for those souls to be taken apart, they literally have to be ripped apart. And how many of you know when your soul gets ripped apart, that is not something that is a good thing for your life, and you go through a lot of unbelievable pain during that. And God was saying is, all I want for you is that you won't have to go through that. So if you'll just stay under my umbrella. Or it's like this, man, I just need to feel some pleasure and some joy in my life. And when I've felt that before, it's always been from the bottle. It's always been from this drug. And so you put down the protection and you go over and you go, I got to feel that. God would want me to feel better, wouldn't he? But here's what God knows. God knows what's on the other side of that addiction. God knows what he made your body. He knows exactly how it responds to the chemicals that you're putting in your body. He knows everything about your molecular structure down to every single detail. And he knows that's not something that you need. What you need is to be filled by my spirit. What you need is to make it through this with me. What you need. But it feels so good for a moment because feelings lie to us and feelings abandon us and feelings will take us to places that we never want to go. And then when we're ripped apart from that addiction all of a sudden and it can't meet our needs, we go, why is this so painful? Like, why do I have to go through this? And God is saying, it's because of you weren't under my protection. I want to protect you. I want to be there for you. It's the person who says, we just can't possibly be generous with our finances. You just don't know our situation. I know God says, first and foremost, give 10% to me. I know he says that, but you don't know if God knew my situation, and so we put the umbrella down, and then we're over here, and we're like, I can't figure out why my finances never come together. We can't ever get things straight. We can't ever get things where we need them to be. God's not blessing it. Doesn't have favor on it. Why doesn't God bless me? Why doesn't God love me? And the storms of life come financially, and you can't cover it, and you can't do what you need to do, and there's always more month than there is paycheck. And so you look at this, and all of these circumstances outside of this principle, you go, what is God? Like some kind of cosmic killjoy? Like he just doesn't want us to have sex. He doesn't want us to buy things that we want to buy whenever we want to buy them. He just doesn't want us to feel good because those drugs and that, it makes me feel, is he just a cosmic killjoy? And God is going, no. I just know you better than you know yourself. And my way under the umbrella always works out better. It's because he loves you. He's protecting you under God's provision. See, religion lied to you. Religion said, this is how you can get God to love you. Do this, do this, do this. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. If you'll do all that, God will love you. No. God already loves you. And because he loves you, he's saying, don't fall off that cliff. Don't walk into that fire. Don't get into that painful situation. He's trying to protect you because under the umbrella comes protection. Under the umbrella comes provision. He's got everything that you need. Everything that you need, God has it. Underneath the protection and the provision of this umbrella, underneath the covering comes your purpose. God has it all for you. But we get from underneath the umbrella of protection when we disobey God. Life really does come down to two postures. Obeying God, under the protection. Disobeying God, not under the protection. And you say, no, wait a minute. But there's storms in life, and there's so many more things than that. No. Remember the parable? It's in the Bible. It says that these 2 men were building houses, or 3 men were building houses, and they built these houses, and one built it on a sure foundation, one built it on a shaky foundation, and then it says, though, when the storm came, the storm comes to everybody. Everybody's going through something. So there's 2. When the storm comes, either you'll have the protection or you won't. Either when it moves, you move. And so this is the posture of life. You watch God's covering and you go, I want to be wherever God is. God's moving this way, I'm going this way. God's moving this way, when he zigs, I zig. When he zags, I zag. I'm following after God. All I want to do is be under the protection of God. Well, how will I be taken care of? Because you're under the protection of God. Well, how will I be protected? Because you're under the protection of God. Well, how will I get my needs met? Because you're under the protection of God. God's covering protects us. But sometimes we're going to have to stretch to be able to get under his cover. Sometimes it's going to be painful to get under his protection. Sometimes we've got to get ready for what Elijah was getting ready for, because as I read the scripture, I'm not even sure that Elijah had really experienced the miracle that God had for him yet, just in being fed by the ravens and just drinking out of the brook. He hadn't really done that, because what God really wanted to do is he was preparing Elijah for the miracle stretch. In fact, that's the title of my sermon today. If you're taking notes, it is The Miracle Stretch. God has a miracle stretch for you to do. It's going to be stretching out to the miracle that he has for you. And here's why we see this, because eventually the brook dried up. Remember, the brook is where Elijah is going to get his water. He's going to drink from the brook. Eventually the brook dried up because... That can't be right. I must have I use an iPad. I think I mistyped this. Does anybody have a Bible on them? Because I don't think that could be right. That doesn't seem right to me. Who's got a Bible on them that maybe has this in their car? You got a Bible on you? I want to check out this Bible. You got to check behind your work. Sometimes you never know what's going to happen. Where first she is obviously not 44 years old, because if you can read this Bible, you're not 44 years old. You gotta carry around one of those little things that Inspector Gadget wears to be able to wear this thing. I'm gonna trust you because it says because, right? All right, it's in the Bible, minuscule writing Bible, but it's in the Bible. Because eventually the brook dried up because of the drought. But remember our story. Who caused the drought? God. But who told Elijah that he would be able to drink from the brook? God. Obedience to God will often increase our need for God. There's many times in our lives where he gets us to stretch, just to stretch. I remember when we were teaching our kids to walk, when we get something they really wanted and just hold it just a little bit, and they would start to take a step because they really wanted, or maybe it was just coming to mama or coming to daddy. He's just saying, come stretch to be with me. And he's saying, just take one more step, because our dependence on him has increased. We think, if we obey God, everything's gonna be great. Everything's gonna be wonderful. No, God says, I've got so much more planned for you. I've got so much more preparation for you. You're going to have to stretch to be able to handle. What I have over here, you couldn't handle right now. You can't stretch to it, but you couldn't handle it. So you're going to have to stretch along the way, and I'm going to prepare you, and I'm going to teach you through the stretch. And here's the other idea that's in here is the drought in your life may just be the result of the very promise of God. See, we're quick to blame Satan, the enemy of our soul. The devil made me do it. The devil's coming after me. What if the devil didn't flatten your tire? What if God allowed that to happen because he knows you are the most impatient person that's ever existed in the history of the world, and he just needed to calm you down for a minute and let you chill with life for just a minute? And you could change that tire and get it changed in that way, or you could freak out and be all crazy and texting everybody and stressing out and going crazy, and you go, all right, guess we have to give you another test another day because you didn't learn it this time. I wonder if God is trying to stretch us sometimes through our pain. He didn't cause the pain, but he can allow the pain to exist in our lives so that he can stretch us to where he needs us to be. I wonder what God is trying to do. And the drought may very well be the result of the very promise of God. Your obedience to God may actually cause the drought in your life. I think about Elijah who now needs God to come through because the source that God had given him to meet his needs has dried up because God dried it up. That God dried up the source. And it may be that your obedience that pushes away that friend that you thought had come into your life as a result of God meeting your needs, and maybe they did, but maybe you got too dependent on that friend and you were not dependent on God anymore because you thought this friend could meet all of your needs in your life. And maybe God had to teach you through that. I've had instances in my life where I thought God had brought in a friend for me, and the truth of the matter is that friend couldn't hang with the purpose and the calling that God has on my life. And so the friend was pushed away by the very obedience to calling that I have in my life. But because here's the thing, I'm patient with relationships, but I'm not playing. Like I've got a calling on my life, and there are some things in my life that I'm going to do. There's some ways that I'm going to live. There's some decisions that I'm going to make that may distance me from some people who aren't ready to walk that closely yet to God. And that may be your life right now. You may be in a season where you're going to find that the very obedience to God that he's calling you to, the call in your life that he's calling you to, will be the thing that causes the drought to happen in your life. Let me give you another instance maybe for you. I've seen this so many times in our church, that God is moving in someone's life, and they're shown by God that I can't have this job and be the husband I need to be. I can't have this job and be the mom that I need to be. I can't have this job and be the dad that I need to be. I can't have this job and grow closer to God because I can't go to small group with this job. I can't be at church as often as I need to be with this job. This job stresses me out and pushes me towards my addictions. This job makes me want to run after money and nothing but money. I can't have this job and be more like Jesus tomorrow. And this is working in their life, and what happens is they're so comfortable in the Kerith Valley, because the comfort of the Kerith Valley is that the water was flowing, right? And the water was flowing down, and so why wouldn't you just settle down in the Kerith Valley and just be comfortable there? Why wouldn't you just take the paycheck? You got to have a job, right? I mean, everybody believes jobs are good, right? Money coming in, income is good, right? All that's good. But God may dry up the source, or he may put it on your heart. I believe there are people here dealing with it right now, that you only get 18 years with that kid, and you're not seeing them enough right now. You know that. Like somebody's being spoken to right this moment, that your job is robbing you of being the dad that you need to be. And I don't care what amount of money your job pays you, it will never replace the years that you will miss with your child, ever. There's no amount of overtime that will make up for the lack of time that you spend with your child, never. And so there's somebody going, that had this conviction of my heart, like this is the source. And so here's what we do. We say, okay, God, I got you. I will quit my job as soon as you show me where the next source is going to come from. Isn't that good, God? How unbelievably courageous am I? I will, as soon as you get me a better job. How about that? As soon as you get me a better job. As soon as you get me a better friend, as soon as you give me some better choices to make in life, and I don't want to just sit home. I don't want to just sit home. If it's, I'm going to keep going out and doing the drugs with the friends, and as soon as you show me a better way of doing life, then God. But what we see in Elijah is he just obeyed. God said, I'm bringing this out of you. I want you to obey. And so the source dries up. And the source doesn't have to just dry up physically. The source can just dry up because you know. You just know. You know. There's a quenching in your spirit that says, the season for this source meeting my needs is over. And Elijah sees that. And so then he spoke to him, get up and go to Zarephath and Sidon, and live there. I've instructed a woman who lives there, a widow, to feed you. Now it starts to get interesting, because you see the raven fed from food that was already there. Meat already existed, bread already existed. The raven fed from that food. Now, let's not discount the greatness of Happy Meals being dropped out of the sky from a raven for you to eat from. I mean, that is amazing. If I could have a hawk come and land on my shoulder right now as I preach and do that every Sunday, I would do it, and more people would come, because that is awesome if that would happen. So let's not discount that. But you can train a bird to do that. God can certainly command a natural bird, a bird that already exists in the habitat, to go and pick up meat that already exists and bread that already exists. The brook that flowed water already existed. The water was already there. In fact, this is interesting. The water was there from the previous blessing of God. It hadn't rained, remember, there's no more rain, there's no more dew. So where's this water coming from? It's coming from the last time that God blessed the people. And I believe that there are many of you here who aren't seeing the miracles of God because you're not leaving the place of comfort to stretch into a place where God is moving in a new way, because you're so comfortable in the way what God did do in your life, and you're still living off of the fumes of what God did do with your faith, that you just think, I'm saved, I've done everything. You're not in a small group anymore. You're not serving anymore, because I'm good enough. I'm good enough. And God, you'll never see God move in a way that he can in you, because you're not stretching outside of the old ways. But I don't have time to preach that. But what we see here is that the Kerith Canyon experience was the miracle to Elijah. So you had the miracle to you. And we all need a miracle too. Everybody here is going through something. But that's not the real miracle. What God wanted to do is take Elijah to a place where it was the miracle through you. Like when God begins not to just do something to you and for you, but through you. And he begins to work through you. Let me tell you how this played out this week. Our church, has been taking up over this last couple of weeks for our April Serve Day, laundry supplies. And we're taking all of these laundry supplies, bleach and detergent and $10 worth of quarters and dryer sheets and hangers and a basket. And we're taking all of this to our adopted blocks. If you don't know what adopted block is, I just want to encourage you, you are missing out. Every single month we go and serve at the adopted blocks. And there are people who just invest in these communities. We have 3 communities that we invest in. And what we learn from these communities is churches are notorious for every single year coming at Thanksgiving with a turkey. And then they're like, but we never see them again. So we just decided we're going to go to the same place every single month after month. We're going to get to know the kids. We're going to love on people. We're going to get to know the residents. And that way we're not a turkey because we didn't want to be a turkey. And so we are going to do the thing that we think Jesus does, which is give time over and over and over again. So we go to these adopted blocks. And so as a part of our serve day yesterday, we wanted to take these supplies to our adopted blocks because in these communities, they mostly use coin-operated laundry machines, and they have them there on site, and so they needed the quarters, they needed supplies. A lot of them are disabled, a lot of them are out of work, and there's a lot of needs that we can meet. And so I'm thinking, man, this is amazing, and this is just incredible. I'm gonna go serve. This is all about, for me, this is all for, I've got my kids and Connie, and we're all going to serve together, and this is gonna be a great day. This is great for Freedom Church. This is wonderful. What I didn't know was what God was gonna do through us. So when we showed up, we're knocking on the doors, and we had 24 baskets that we needed to give out. So we're knocking on the doors, and some people are home, some aren't, and we're handing out baskets, and people are excited, and they're grinning, and they're happy. And then we rounded the corner, and there was this door already open to Miss Janice's apartment. And Miss Janice was sitting there, and as soon as she saw us, her face just lit up. I mean, she was so happy to see us coming, and of course, kids and everything. And she's sitting there, and she welcomed us in, and she said, "How are you doing?" I said, "We're from Freedom Church. We're from Adopted Block." She said, "Oh, I know, and I'm so happy to see you." And then the whole thing turned because she looked at me, and she said, "Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for this." She said, "I'm disabled now, and I'm older." And she said, "Honestly, you're the only people I see all month when you guys come." She said, "When you get old like me, no one comes and visits anymore. When you get disabled, I can't get out to go see people, so I leave my door open," and she just likes to look out. And so I prayed with her there, and I realized that what we were able to do was deliver hope. The miracle wasn't to us. I've got all the laundry detergent I need. I've got a good place to do laundry at my house. The miracle wasn't to us. The miracle was through us. And Miss Janice needed in that moment to have hope. And she got just enough hope, I believe, to take her to the next time one of us comes and visits, and to the next time that one of us comes and visits. And she's living off of the hope that's coming from the miracle through us. And so it would have been so easy to be comfortable in the Carroth Canyon. I think that some of you are so comfortable and so complacent where God has been feeding you off of last time's miracle that you think, "I'm good." And God is wanting to stretch you. And so it says, then God spoke to him, "Get up and go to Zarephath and sit and live there." I want to go through that phrase one more time because this is about his comfort. This was not a comfortable place to go for Elijah. This is not a comfortable place to be. This was Jezebel's hometown. So he just delivered this message to Ahab and Jezebel. He knows that they're very upset with him. He's gone and hidden in comfort for a while, but now God says, "Go to her hometown." And this is where I want you to get taken care of. The circumstances of a miracle will often call us away from comfort. In fact, let me tell you this. If you're not doing anything in your life that causes you some discomfort, you're probably not listening to God anymore. Like if there's nothing in your life that is a stretch for you, like you're really having to stretch to forgive them. You're really having to stretch to bring joy to this situation. You're really having to stretch to make this decision because it's not what if you're not there, you may be living off of the old fumes that God has spoken to you in the past. But he tells him, "I've instructed a woman who lives there, a widow, to feed you." God will never position you somewhere that he has not already made provision for you in that place. If God is calling you to do something, whatever it is, he's already got a plan for provision for you. If God is calling you to stretch out, he's already got a plan for you. So he went up to Zarephath, and he arrived at the gates of the village. He saw a widow gathering sticks, and he asked her, "Would you please bring me a little water in a cup?" He says to her. As she was going to get the water, he called out to her, "Hey, bring me a bite of bread too." It's kind of like some of the husbands here, when if your wife ever does get up, you're like, "Hey, while you're up, you mind getting me a little iced tea? Since you got the refrigerator open, you mind making me a sandwich? Like, is that cool?" Like, he's like, "Hey, would you go ahead and give me a bite of bread too?" But she said, "I swear by the Lord, your God." She acknowledges, "I know you're from Jehovah. I know you're from God. I swear by your Lord, your God, that I don't have a single piece of bread in this house." Elijah is probably like, "Good call, God. Like I've got ravens dropping food out of the sky for me, and now you send me to someone to feed me who doesn't even have any food in their house." Like, there comes a moment in every stretch where you go, "God, are you sure? God, are you sure? Because this doesn't feel like this doesn't feel like this is right." She says, "I don't have any food, and I have only a handful of flour left in the jar and a little cooking oil in the bottom of the jug. I was just gathering a few sticks to cook this last meal, and then my son and I will die." So Elijah finds himself thinking that he was going to this woman to have his needs met, and he sees that this is an opportunity for a miracle through him. And the raven had fed Elijah, but now he's being asked to stretch to see the miracle through someone who has nothing to give him, nothing to feed him with, nothing to offer him. And I wonder if the miracle was more for Elijah to deliver than it was for him to receive. I wonder if God's not positioning you right now in a place where you are to be the deliverer of the miracle rather than to receive the miracle. We're praying for a miracle to happen, but maybe the miracle that's going to happen is going to happen through you and not just to you. And so Elijah is being stretched. When God provides a miracle to us, it's so he can provide a miracle through us. Can I just tell you that? God never gives you anything. Talent, treasure, time, never gives you anything that's not intended to pass through you. Like, it's okay to use some of it. It's okay to be filled by some of it. It's okay to find joy in some of it, but it's supposed to pass. He always gives you enough that it can pass through you, always. But Elijah said to her, "Don't be afraid." He offers her hope. Hey, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Can I just tell you, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to follow God. You know what he's prompting you to do. Don't be afraid to make a decision that will be uncomfortable for you. Don't be afraid to change an area of your life that other people will look at you and go, "What are you doing? Like, why would you do that?" Don't be afraid. He says, "Go ahead and do what you've said, but make a little bread for me first." And this isn't the way that we normally approach this in America. He says, "Go ahead and do what you've said." In other words, go ahead and do. I know that you're going to die anyway. That's what he's saying. You're going to die anyway. So why don't you go ahead and make some bread for me first? Like you've said, it's all falling apart. So instead of, I don't plan on dying today, so can I eat? That's what Elijah's saying. I know you're planning on dying, but I'm not planning on either one of us dying. So why don't you go ahead and do what you're going to do? Can I tell you, why don't you said the marriage is gone, man. You always talk about saving marriage. Our marriage is gone. Like, you have no idea how cold it is. You have no idea where it's at. Can I just say, okay, all right, that's cool. Go ahead and do what you're going to do. You're going to get a divorce anyway. So could you try it God's way just while you're on the way to that? You have no idea where our finances is. My company's falling apart. I've lost my job. Whatever it is, you say, it's going downhill. I'm not going to be able to make my bills, and the creditors are going to be calling. All right. So the creditors are going to be calling anyway, right? They're going to be calling anyway. So why don't you go ahead and try it God's way on your way there? Why don't you tell the creditors when they call, hey, I'm going to try it God's way, call me next week. Just tell them that. See if they'll call you back. Just tell, and they say, I'm going to try it God's way. Just say, you know what? I've been standing out in the rain for so long. I'm going to get wet anyway. Maybe I'll just see if this whole umbrella thing works. Let's just see if it can cover me enough. And so he says, go ahead. Make your bread. And then he says, but make mine first. We don't do it that way, do we, in America? we don't understand biblical generosity very well. Because what we do is as soon as I get my house in order, then I'll be generous. As soon as I feed myself, then I'll feed you. As soon as I get my needs met, then I'll try to meet somebody else's need. As soon as you forgive me, I'll forgive you. I'm not forgiving you till you forgive me. You're crazy. I'm not forgiving you. You say I'm sorry, then I'll say I accept it, then I'll tell you I'm sorry. This is the way we do things. We say you go first. And what Elijah is saying is you go first. And just try it my way. Just try God's way, he says. And then he says, then use what's left. Everybody shout, what's left? Use, what do you mean what's left? Elijah, I don't have anything. I've got nothing. Use what's left. You say, I've got nothing. I don't have any love left for her. You'll be able to use what's left. What do you mean what's left? I don't have any friends. Wait till you have an abundance of friends. You won't know what to do with all the friends. Just do it God's way. I've got nothing. I am nothing. Everybody tells me I'm nothing, and they're right, because I've got nothing but this addiction that follows me around and these money problems. But I want to tell you something, that God is a God who specializes in taking nothing and creating something. And so she's saying, what in the world? How am I supposed to have something left? I don't even have room to pay. I don't have enough to feed myself. I'm just going to die. And Elijah says, use what's left and prepare a meal for yourself and your son. Use what's left. We have to stretch. Stretch past your supply. This is all I've got left. I can't give this away. It's all I've got left. How can I leave the brook? How can I leave the ravens? Stretch past your supply and realize it is the supplier who will provide the miracle. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says: there will always be flour and olive oil left in your containers until the time when the Lord sends rain and crops to grow again. So she did as Elijah said, simple but profound obedience. I believe what God is calling us to is obedience. When it's hard, when it doesn't make sense, when other people call us out for it being stupid, obedience. So she did what Elijah said. And she and Elijah and her family, the word here means her extended family, so not just her son, but she was able to feed the people in the village that were her family, continued to eat for many days. She and Elijah. Elijah came, delivered a miracle, and the miracle was delivered back to him. It's a principle in the Bible. When we give, we shall receive. When we plant and we sow, we shall reap. It's all throughout the Bible. You plant first, you give first, and then you receive. And it says that she continued to eat for many days, and there was always enough. When you're under the covering of God, there will always be enough. Always. We don't really even know what enough is until we're under the covering of God. Because he said, I will give you more than you could ever ask for or imagine. We just assign value to things that actually have no value and call that enough, when God says, let me show you what's really enough. There will always be enough. And there was always enough flour and olive oil left in the containers, just as the Lord had promised to Elijah. Sometimes God wants to show you he is faithful in the natural, the ravens and the brook, so that he can stretch you for the supernatural miracle that he has. It's the miracle stretch. Let me ask you, where do you need a miracle? A supernatural moving of God in your life, something that would be an only God moment. I know everybody in here is going through something. Everybody needs a miracle. But let me ask you a better question. Not just where do you need a miracle, where do you need to be obedient? Because miracles grow out of the deep soil of obedience. So to get to that soil, where do you need to stretch? I think some of you need to stretch to forgive them. They're not going to forgive you first. They maybe never will. They're not even going to tell you that they did anything wrong. But you need to stretch and you need to forgive them. Some of you need to stretch and be obedient in choices in your life. I could name 100 choices. I might not hit yours. You know what your choice is. You know where you're not under the covering, and you need to be obedient to stretch, to grab the covering of God through obedience in your life. And when we do that, here's what I believe. A miracle can happen now. Not because we read about it in the Bible, Not just the ones that happened in the New Testament when they first founded the church, but here and now. In fact, say it with me, a miracle can happen now. A miracle can happen now. A miracle can happen in my life. A miracle can happen in your life. It's the very thing that you've been praying for. Don't settle for what is out there. Don't marry him just because you think he's the only one you'll ever get. Don't go live with him because he's willing to offer you half on an apartment. Don't go and do it. Don't settle for it. The Spirit of the Lord is here. There's evidence all around. The miracle is there if you'll dig down deep. I know you think you've got all that you can get. I know you think you've got nothing, but God is going to show you you've got something. God's going to show you he's got so much more for you because the Spirit of the Lord is moving in his place. If you'll believe it, a miracle can happen now.